Welcome to Florida Focus, a college football podcast. My name is Brandon. I am a lifetime Florida State Seminole fan.
And I am Chris, and I am a fantastic Gator fan.
And we are putting aside our differences as rivals to bring you the fantastic world of college football throughout Sunshine State. And today, Chris, broadening the horizon, our thoughts on the entire college football landscape right now. So a follow-up to the other mid-2020 summer updates. We wanted to weigh in on kind of everything that's going on in the state of college football, and then kind of go from there. But a lot of headlines, going across the news these days.
Yeah, absolutely, and a lot of changes and potential changes and shakeups that we want to talk about, especially when concerning our two schools, but then just college football abroad.
Sure, absolutely. So there's been some headlines we wanted to let the community address and let us know. What did you think about what happened? But I'll start with you, Chris. Go ahead with, I guess, the first story on everyone's mind is the whole Gator bait controversy and what's going on with that. So I'll let you take stage.
Yeah, so the president of UF, he comes out and says that the Gator bait chant, or I guess whatever the band plays, we're going to no longer do that. And in his statement, it said while the chant is not racist, I guess it ties back to some racist things back in the day, which doing some research and reading, a lot of people that I talked to just didn't know this was a thing, just didn't, it wasn't on anybody's radar. But apparently, way back in the day, black babies were, I guess, fed to gators, and they were called gator bait. And that's kind of like where the term came from. But what frustrates me and a lot of Gator fans I talk to, what we are saying has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with that term. And even the president said in his statement, although it's not a racist thing, so we're just like, what is going on? It is really frustrating because you're seeing a lot of changes, a lot of people calling stuff out. And I think some of it's good. Some of it is some legit stuff that needs to be changed. But I think this one is a stretch. We could talk about the Mississippi flag later on, which it's interesting. But as far as the Gator bait thing, it's just kind of like scratching my head. Like, no one has ever once said it in a way that tied to that. Nobody really knows that term really existed, and it's just ridiculous. And then Lawrence Wright, who was a safety back in the 90s, 96 national championship team, he was the one who coined that phrase after we had won. Gator fans know, he was the one that says, if you ain't a Gator, you're Gator bait.
Oh yeah.
And that's what he coined that phrase, and then later on the band took on to it. But here's the interesting. Lawrence Wright is black.
Right.
And if he's the one saying, hey, this is not what you think it is, that should be a huge, huge sign that you overreached, you overstepped. Now, he did say that he wanted to talk to the president of UF and the school, which is good, and I don't know if that's happened or gonna happen or what, but this is just kind of like, some of the stuff is good, the stuff that they're changing, I'm on board with, and I get it. But this one is just, I'm not just saying this as a Gator fan. I'm just saying this as a college football fan. This is ridiculous. Just, you're trying too much, and no one said, and it's just kind of like, where does it end? Where does it end? And it's, is there an end to all this change? And it's just kind of, are we going to just scrutinize and pick apart everything and every word? And like I said, some of these things are legit, and I can kind of see why you might want to think about changing it and tweaking it. Okay. But this one, it does not make sense at all.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate you bringing some context to that too. I knew about Lawrence Wright from the headlines I've seen, and I think you and I both agree, if the intent of this was malicious, then obviously it has to go. Now, not being a Gator fan, I didn't really know this, and from what you're saying, that kind of makes sense. I understand that viewpoint. Is this something that will impact the experience that the fans have of the game?
I don't. What's a tough one? An impact. I think you're still going to see a lot of fans say it, because it's the Gator bait, right?
Right.
And actually, more famous, but more common is basketball games. When they do the lineups and they introduce the opposing team, they'll say so and so from Tennessee, and then Gator bait.
Okay.
That's when it's like, I don't know, interesting to me. I want to see how they change that up. But I would imagine a lot of fans are going to still just say it, and chant it, and might not wait for they're not going to rely on the band. They're just going to do it. But here's my thing. Now, if I go out there and I say Gator bait, am I now racist? I think a lot of people might be thinking of people that these college kids that are going to get together and start saying Gator bait, Gator bait. Now something that wasn't even on the table, now they're going to say it. People are going, oh, you're saying it because you're racist. And that's where I'm like, why? This wasn't an issue, and now it's an issue. You're making you're making a non-issue something that's a mess now. And I just don't get it. I just don't get it, and it frustrates me because, and this is why I'm so passionate about it, not just as a Gator fan, but in whole, I go to Gator games. I go to college football because it's kind of an escape from the world. But now the world and politics are bleeding into and then getting shoved into college football, and it's really annoying and frustrating. When I go to the Pizza Hut buffet, I love the Pizza Hut buffet, by the way. The thin pepperoni and the stuffed crust. Okay. So good.
Nice.
It might not be the best afterwards, but say I go to the Pizza Hut buffet and they have one pizza and then the rest is salad. Okay, great. Salads are great, but I came there for the pizza. I don't go to college football for all this politics and stuff, and it's frustrating. I don't go to sports for all the politics. I go to these channels, certain channels for my politics. I go to certain channels for sports because sports is a way to escape all that, a temporary escape, okay, than real life, right? Mm-hmm. And now I can't even do that. Now I'm sitting here frustrated talking about you about this thing when I should just be talking about the rosters and the schedule coming up. And that's what's really frustrating about me, all this stuff that's going on. But it's really starting to annoy me, as you could probably tell.
Well, yeah, it's hard for us to balance. Okay, this is a world of escapism, and we see an issue seeping in, and of course, as fans, we're not blind to the fact that almost all of the stars are African American. But I think I see your point where you're saying there's a lot of things that we didn't even know had racist origins, and now we're being educated on it, and now it seems like those are being taken away. And so it was kind of surprising to me, number one, that UF acted kind of quickly to get something gone. And if the math serves right, 25, 30 years of having the chant, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
But I did notice the verbiage the president made when he said, we don't, we didn't know this, or we don't think it has this. However, on the other side of caution, it's going to be gone. So that to me gives hope that maybe it comes back. And they'll reevaluate, and they would hope to look into the issue and the origin further. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned also Lawrence Wright, who was the player to kind of bring that up. And so I'm glad that, again, the discussion is going to be had.
Yeah. And I'm okay with discussion. Let's have a talk and discussion and then make the moves. I don't like this make the move and then, because it's tough to bring it back. It's now so you have the discussion and Lawrence Wright says it, and you know what, we'll put it back. But now some people are going to go, No, you're saying that because you're racist now. And now that you know it's racist and you're saying it, that makes you a racist. So I'm just like, it didn't have to be this way.
Okay.
If we had those conversations first, before the reaction, that's, I guess, kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah. I mean, you could show a little more passion on the subject. I'm just kidding. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I'll get fired up if you want.
No, yeah. And I think I understand where you're coming from. It's an interesting topic. Did you have any final thoughts to add, or I can kind of move on to a similar topic of Florida State?
No, I'll jump in on some other stuff, but that's kind of my 2 cents on that, I guess.
Okay.
Unless I think of some more, but as of right now, I think I got it all out.
Gotcha. And we'll try and discuss more of our thoughts as the ongoing conversation is had. So with Florida State, along the same vein, one of the premier figures in Florida State athletics is Mr. Doak, not Doak, D-O-A-K, but he was a president who actually brought back athletics to Florida State once the school reintegrated. So, it was a women's school for a long time until 1946 or 47. And so when the late 40s, 50s rolled around, he said, hey, let's bring back sports. Because of that, the football stadium was named Doak Campbell Stadium. And it's now come out through various headlines and other things that, by the way, aren't new. These are all things that have come out in recent past, that he was an advocate for segregation. So there's been a lot of Florida State fans, players, alumni that have said, well, maybe we should change the name of the stadium. But I'm also here to say that this is not a new idea for Florida State. The idea, number one, to change the name of the stadium came about probably a couple years ago. It probably even started with the likes of UCF, who named their stadium Bright House Network Stadium, and then Spectrum Stadium, and then and this ties in too. They tried to pass some kind of legislature through the Florida Senate that said we should be able to rename our stadium again, and they were in talks with roofclaim.com to get another name on the stadium, and that didn't end up passing. But this is all tied into Florida State and other people who want to rename their stadiums because they want to make money off of it. Okay? Why does anyone do anything? Money. All right? So this was something that's probably been in talks for some time. The idea that it just kind of came up now, I mean, obviously we don't want to honor people who had misrepresented views. Okay. But this is really coming from a different place. It just happens to be, rearing its head now. Most people are like, okay, well, this is what I want to name it. I want to name it Jimbo Fisher Stadium. I want to name it Chief Osceola Stadium. Okay, you throw out all the pitches you want. The idea that we want to change the stadium and kind of get rid of this is not new to Florida State. It's also not new around the nation. We see that Clemson has already changed a building name. You talked about Mississippi. The state's trying to get rid of the Confederate flag representation. These are all very subtle things that can change a culture pretty drastically. I'm going to go overseas for a second, Chris. Once Saddam Hussein was dethroned, it was very important for that nation to remove his image from their money, their currency. So, very subtle psychological things of like, okay, let's ingrain people with images of other former founders who didn't see the same way we do.
Yeah.
And I just see that all kind of in the same conversation. So, is it part of the Black Lives Matter movement? Of course. It's an integral discussion to continue to have, and it makes a big difference there, but it's not the biggest factor of why the name might change.
Yeah. See, I didn't know about the Doak. I only heard they were thinking about changing it. I didn't know that. And it kind of goes into my point earlier. I like that they have been talking about it for a while. And now that it's kind of all this stuff has come to light, they're like, hey, the thing that we've already been talking about, maybe we should implement it. So that's good. That makes me feel better that they've had some discussions. It's an ongoing thing. It's not a reactionary thing.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of on board with that a little bit more. And again, I didn't know anything about Doak. I'm not close to that like you guys are.
I looked him up too. I didn't really know a whole lot about the guy. He was a president back in the day, and he brought back sports. That's all I knew.
Right. I mean, I am kind of just cautious about setting. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, a precedence. Like, again, where do we draw the line? Like, obviously, if he was for segregation, maybe have a little bit more an easier time to get on board with it. But I'm just worried about way down the road. Can anybody ever be put up? Can you ever name a stadium after someone's name? Because we're all not perfect. We've all done something wrong. But I get it. Like, right now, the Black Lives Matter and race is kind of it's a hot button thing, a very sensitive thing. So I get that's kind of what they're going after right now. But I'm just kind of like just a little bit of cautious, just looking way down the road, if that makes any sense.
It does. I think you're trying to warn us against overreaction, which is founded. I think the bigger message with the movement is to say, this isn't an overreaction. It's been out for hundreds of years or whatever, and there's certainly evidence of that.
I hear you.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And like, for instance, the Mississippi flag, I get it. I kind of get why they might want to remove that. For some, it is a heritage thing, but for a lot, it's not.
Right.
It's something worse, right? So, and to your point, this has been brewing for a long time for them. So I get it, and I'm kind of like a little bit more on board with the Mississippi flag. But I just think with the Gator bait thing in particular, that was an overaction, an overreach.
Gotcha.
As a result of all the other things that are happening.
Yep. And hey, we welcome all your feedback. We certainly know, and I've read it, there are a lot of Gator fans that disagree with that stance, and that's fine. Let's continue to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, I think just in general college football terms, we wanted to kind of address was a little bit of these issues, Mississippi, and then Kansas State. I know it's been making a lot of headlines. So real quickly, my stance on that, and then Chris, you can weigh in, is I'm really curious to see what kind of power the players have and how they use it. It's weird to say that, but I'm going to go back to an incident. This was 2015. There were some riots at Missouri. And what I noticed, and I will never forget, is there were student demonstrations, there were some protests, and then there were some other events that led up to the football team finally said, hey, if things don't change, then we're not going to play this weekend. They happened to be playing a game. They were assigned out, I think it was Brigham Young or somebody. But if they didn't play, they would have forfeited $1 million to the school.
Right.
And the president that very day said, I'm not resigning. But within 48 hours, he was pretty much forced to resign.
Right.
So what I'm curious about is, will other teams follow suit? I mean, this is something that happened 5 years ago, also race-related. So, where do we factor into 2020 on top of COVID and everything else going on? Is this something that they kind of follow suit on? Is this something that they've looked to? And this probably to me the biggest question is, will people finally start to change their thinking because of this? So anyway, those are some of my initial thoughts. Really, I come more with questions and answers.
Yeah.
As you can probably tell, but I'll let you weigh in your thoughts on just anything else or Kansas State.
Yeah, with the Kansas State, and I read a little bit, so you might want to catch me up to speed if I'm missing some gaps there. But there was a student who put out a tweet that was just in bad taste. Yeah. It was just a really and so some players were upset, and they said they will not play until something is done. Right.
Yeah, that's right. They
the
wanted
gist
to
of it,
okay. Basically.
Yeah. I like that you can use your platform for good, like with I think I guess it's really good that you have this platform like Twitter or whatever social media to use it for good. I don't know if I think their intentions are good. I don't know if they have the right to do that. To be honest, and I'm not for the tweet. Like the tweet was awful. I read it. It was pretty bad. Um, but do you have the right to get a kid expelled? Because of something he said. I don't know the rules. I really don't know the rules. Like, what are the rules? What can the school do? Now, Twitter, I'm pretty sure they have their own rules and they can ban and they can do what they want. That's fine. They're their own company. But what can the school do based on someone's tweet? I don't know. And again, here comes this precedence thing. Putting power in these players' hands, I think it can be good, and I also see where it can go, can be bad. So I'm curious too. How is this going to play out? Where does it end? Like,
yeah.
What's the, that's what I'm a little worried about.
Yeah. And from what I can tell,
what do the, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, I think what the Kansas State players, they want the administration of Kansas State to take action there. So they themselves, to answer your question, that there's nothing they can do as fellow students, but that they want the administration to take action against someone that they see as probably racist.
Right.
And
well, what can the administration do? Like, do they have a right? Because, I mean, isn't that – I don't know if it falls in their First Amendment rights. Again, let me make this very clear. I do not support what he said.
Right. That's the debate, Chris. Is like,
does he have a right to say it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, is it free speech? Can he say that? And it's pretty divided. I mean, there's plenty. I've read full articles where they're like, no, he has the right to say that, and it's not right, but he can do it.
Right.
Kind of the I'm not trying to compare the two, but the first thought I had was constitutionally, Americans can burn the flag. It's like most people are like, no way, but the Supreme Court of the U.S. said yes, 5-4, you can. And so I think that kind of debate would happen with this. So it's unfortunate that all of this is happening, and it's unfortunate that we have to address this issue. I think you and I both agree on that. But it's really hard to see all of this happening for a sport we love, and we really just want to have to not push through it. And this was, a hard episode for us to even record because, this is not kind of the thing we talk about, who was the leading passer in UF history. This is not the kind of thing that we're even used to looking up, but I think we owe it to the sport and we owe it to ourselves to mention it and have an open dialogue.
Yeah, and because of all the recent events, I have learned a lot. I've talked to some of my friends and family, and I have learned so much, and I think I've grown. And again, and I know I'm over here complaining about football while people were, experiencing hardcore racism. So I'm not comparing. Listen, I'm not right.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it's different. It's a whole new, for lack of a better term, ball game, and I think everyone's adjusting. And myself and you including.
Sure. So, I mean, those are our thoughts. We certainly want to turn to you, and we want to hear what you think about everything that's going on. We welcome any feedback because, again, we would be remiss not have an open dialogue about it and conversation. So it's not ongoing. This is not the end-all, be-all. These are our sort of initial reactions to everything, and we've had some time to digest it, but not a whole lot of time. So,
right. Yeah, and don't worry, we will get back to X's and O's and the players and schedules. But I think Brandon and I have been talking. It's kind of important stuff, and we do want to bring some salad, but we're not going to force feed you salad the whole time. Don't worry.
Exactly.
You will get your buffet. You will.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this is kind of ushered us into a thought process where, like, well, we should address this a little bit more. Let's have our fun. Let's talk about the sport, but let's double back to this to make sure that we're not off topic and we're not part of the problem. So that is our Stands at Florida Focus podcast. Chris, where can fans reach out to us and give us that feedback that we really want?
FloridaFocusPodcast.com. Please let us know. Enlighten us. I'm willing to learn and understand, and Like you said, a lot of it's just bringing up more questions. I don't really have answers or solutions yet, but we can have that fun dialogue and talk about it, and just please let us know. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. Me and Brandon, I'm a book guy, so if there's a book I can read about the topic, I certainly will do so. I'm a big utilizer of the Amazon wish list, so I have a pretty lengthy list going on there. But if you have other literature, I have The Warmth of Other Suns. That's another book about criminal injustice. About to read that. So if you have more recommendations, please bring it on. So
yeah, I'm more into movies, and plus I can't read. So if you have any movie suggestions, let me know.
Or documentaries, yeah, that would count. Right?
Let me know. Documentary, yeah.
Yeah.
I've watched a few, and I've watched a few recently. Eye-opening stuff and good stuff.
Yeah,
sure.
I watched the 13th. I know you had mentioned, was another one you had saw recently too?
Just Mercy.
Just Mercy. Okay,
was a good one.
So there you go. There's 3 things.
And
right
we
there.
Yeah. And there's another. My wife and I watched another documentary on Netflix. Name is blanking on me right now, but anyways.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, FloridaFocusPodcast.com.
Yes.
Kind of what we're getting at.
Exactly. And then whatever podcast player of choice you have that you use to listen to us, we'd appreciate the feedback. I'm not even asking for a 5-star, Chris. If they are opposite of what we think here, or you guys don't know Gator football, you don't know Florida State football, give us a 1-star. Just tell me why. I don't care.
Now I say give us a 6-star. Make up for that, guys. 1.
Okay, that'll count too.
that's where I'm coming from.
To me, most importantly, is share it with somebody else. Share it with a friend, someone else you know is a fan, and they want to catch up on stuff, or they want to listen to topics. Share it with somebody else. So, all right,
absolutely,
man. Well, this was a good catch up. I know it wasn't the lightest of topics. Was there anything else you want to add before we sign off for the night?
I was going to say, just getting ready for the college football season.
Yeah, however that exists this year, I don't care. You could. I've seen articles that are like, if you were to play 2 games, who are they being against? That's fine. Play 2 games.
Right. Yeah, we shouldn't say start talking about it as if it's a foregone conclusion, because it's still kind of up in the air.
Yeah, but everyone's proceeding forward like it's happening, just like we are. So
right.
Should be fun. Anyway, this is Brandon saying, "Go Noles."
This is Chris. Go Gators.